Raph.
James, how are you, mate?
Good, mate. It's been a while. We haven't had a beer before the podcast in
Far too long.
far too
People
long.
are saying we're washed.
They're calling us busted out there. Literally, they say this is a podcast for and by chopped unks. And it's literally because we haven't had 8 pale ales before talking about artificial intelligence.
Absolutely.
I think that's really upsetting, but it's okay. We're getting thirsty. We're both very thirsty boys. And we will have a disgusting hoppy IPA that tastes like a 50-cent coin in our hands before you know it.
So today we want to talk about Meta's new models, and a bunch of kind of weird reporting that has come out about Meta, including Mark Zuckerberg making a clone CEO of himself.
Yeah.
And then in the second episode, weird vibes at Anthropic, and like, are they pissing off everyone?
Yeah, they're getting they've got a bit of a vibe downturn going on.
But before we get into that, just very quickly follow up to last week. I wanted to say something last week, and I just thought of something immediately as the pod ended. And I was like, damn, I should have said that.
Yep.
So this is regarding Anthropic and Mythos being too scary to release, and them releasing this Mythos, their new model, because, as we said, they were basically like, this thing finds vulnerabilities in programs. So it's not safe for us to release it publicly. We're going to release it with some select partners so that they can, check their programs for vulnerabilities before we release this, any wider. Because if a bad actor got it, goddamn. And we went through all of that, the truthfulness, this, that, and the other of that last week. Feel free to have a listen if you haven't. But what I was thinking is, like, this really does open the door. If you're saying every time you release a new model, this model will find vulnerabilities in your software, surely they productize that where they're like, new model's coming out in a month. We've got the security preview right now. And you just like Anthropic to run your code base through Mythos, which again, like, code bases for large enterprises are obviously enormous.
Yeah.
So you would have to pay them heaps and heaps of money just so that when it comes out in a month, someone else isn't going to do the same thing to like find vulnerabilities in your software. And you could see like a world where Anthropic and OpenAI or whatever basically just like productize this thing.
Yeah, which would be the sensible thing. And I think it kind of like, it makes obvious sense. I think the point I made last week was like, regardless of whether you buy the hype about LLMs or whatever, at the end of the day, identifying bugs in a big code base is literally just a language problem.
Mm.
And if you have a big, powerful model that has tons and tons of parameters that can audit a code base for problems and find them, like needle in a haystack style, that's going to be like insanely valuable, regardless of anything else that AI can and can't do. So obviously it would make sense to be like exactly what you just said. Hey, we've got a crash hot new model coming out. Pay us for a cybersecurity audit, probably a huge amount of money that, companies already spend a fuckload of money on cyber audits. But that may take away from the marketing value currently of, as we say, we have awakened a demon. We have awakened a demon in the pits of our compute facility.
And it could all be yours for the low price of $30 input, 120 output. 1 million tokens.
Well, the current one where it's like, so we have selected 40 partners to work on this civilizational project, which is, not lovely for them for the moment and a little bit different from being like, pay us $500K for an audit.
Yeah.
That's starting. You've gone McKinsey mode at that point, and people get very upset about that sort of thing.
Yeah, I guess it's like a tax.
But it does make sense. Anyway, all right. But first, so we'll get to Anthropic after the break. There's more stuff to talk about there, as I said before. As Raph said before, there's a bit of a vibe downturn on the old Dario Amodei HQ. But we'll talk about Meta. There's been a whole bunch of shit that's been coming out about Meta. And also some areas where Meta is being competed with, like the smart glasses space and things like that. And it's been a while since we've kind of got down and dirty with Zuck. I know the other week we talked a bit about their loss on the social media case in Los Angeles. But, there's been some product stuff. I think the big headline thing is they have announced and have rolled out in some capacity their first AI model that is built under a super intelligence lab. So that, Llama ended up being a dead end. They released Llama 4, their open source model, disappointed everyone. Mark Zuckerberg had a hissy fit, started paying 9-figure sums to hire AI researchers from competing labs. And we've got their first product, which is called Muse Spark. First thoughts on the name, Raph?
It feels like 2007 again, which is good. That was a good time.
That was a great year. Muse Spark. A little bit less. I never liked Llama. I got the joke, I guess, LLM. You put a couple of A's in it, you got Llama. That's, I suppose that's funny once or twice.
That's real open source stuff.
It is. Again, that is 2007 vibes when like a llama was like a random animal.
That's true. Very Reddit.
How funny is it? How funny are llamas? It's a bit Reddit.
The new llama is capybara at the moment. I feel like capybaras are having a moment.
Yep. Even the capybara moment seems to be in the past. There was a time where people thought they were amusing. But yes, Muse Spark, which was codenamed Avocado. I think they should have just knuckled down and called it Avocado, but I'm not a brand guy. You're a brand guy. But yeah, so they've announced this Muse Spark, which, it's not blowing the roof off.
It was never intended. Pre-announced was like, this is not going to blow the roof off. We're just getting it going, which I respect saying that.
Yeah, totally.
Temper your expectations.
Zuck was on podcast being like, this is not going to be cutting edge. It's not even going to be close to the frontier labs, but, the subtext was, this will put us back in the driver's seat, back in the race. We're not languishing. We're making our own AI, our own large language models, blah, blah, blah. And it seems like they've done it. And everyone seems pleasantly surprised. But, again, this is all benchmark shit, which they got in trouble for last time when they released things that looked really lovely on these made-up AI benchmarks. And then people actually used it and were like, this sucks. How many billions of dollars did you spend on this? That kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So it's available now. You can go to the meta.ai, which I'm not suggesting you do or that you regularly do anyway. I personally have never visited Meta AI, except when I wanted to check out like their weird AI videos app out of professional curiosity. And now as a result, it sends a push notification to my entire Facebook contact list every 10 seconds saying James Hennessy is using Meta AI.
It's crazy. I still get people screenshotting that and sending that to me. The app, the app has been offloaded from my phone. As in, I haven't opened it in so long that it's like no longer installed. You have to like re-download it. And they're still sending the push notification that Raph is just out here absolutely loving Meta AI. He's on there every day, cranking away.
Raph is pounding Meta AI 16 hours per day screen time. Join Raph on Meta AI. Yeah, no, I get that. I think I've had 4 separate group chats send me that screenshot.
Let's reiterate. We both opened this app once.
We did approve. I assume there was like an approve field where it was like Meta AI will have access to your, and probably somewhere in that was like, we'll use you as like a fucking skin suit to market this to all your friends forever. But yeah, I've had like 4 group chats sent it with some smart ass remark, never clever, like having a good time on Meta AI, mate. You're making some videos, mate. Very upsetting.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's available on meta.ai, so come and join me. Come and join me and Raph.
You're having a ball on here.
I opened it up and used it slightly, and I was like, okay, cool. It does, it sounds like ChatGPT.
But the whole thing with it is it's supposed to be kind of, quote unquote, purpose-built for Meta products, which at this stage kind of like, you can kind of imagine what that might mean, but at this stage it's like highly integrated with shopping, right? It's like very good at like surfacing products that are available for sale that people are advertising on Meta, I actually find that compelling is the wrong word because like cool, an LLM that's like only for ads. But like it does kind of make sense if it's like, okay, cool. We've had 3 years of LLMs now and various interfaces. if you like started from scratch again and you already have a platform and you can integrate it better than just like having a button in the corner that just says like ask the LLM something that's disconnected from the rest of your context or whatever, which is what most of the integrations are at the moment. Like, I don't know, there's something vaguely cool there. Plus we can get closer to the prediction of all predictions. Actually, sorry, before I get to that, we did predict. In retrospect, everything seems obvious when it comes true. You know, you look back and like, well, that's an easy prediction. Like when it comes true, you know, hindsight's 2020. But yeah, we predicted that their model would be closed. It wouldn't be an open source model, and that obviously came to fruition.
Actually, that was a big shot.
Yeah.
There's actually a bit of that around. It's even happening with like some of the Chinese companies as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Alibaba and Quen, they're pushing to do a closed source model, and why not?
Z.ai, the ones that do those GLM models, they've also gone closed source. I imagine DeepSeek will stay open. That's like seems like their whole. I could be wrong, but it seems like their whole rigmarole. But like there was this whole Chinese open source versus American frontier model thing seems to be breaking down a bit because everyone is like, actually, if you've got a bit of secret sauce, the commercial value is maybe not there in the open source side of things. But anyway.
Yeah, and sorry, to get back to the point of the other prediction that we made at the end of last year was around ads, and it was back end of the year. Ads in, you know, Facebook, whatever, Instagram, or potentially on Google, where it like shows the product on you, were you to opt in.
Oh, yeah.
And again, I can see this being... You know, that's the kind of thing that I feel like when they say like more tightly integrated with Meta's products and services, like that feels like that.
Yeah, I think so.
It hasn't been announced, but like, you know, you can see it coming.
My vibe, and this is just my read on the situation, this may prove true or not, but I think the vibe here is that I don't think that Mark Zuckerberg believes, or like the Meta people believe, that they are going to be like competitive, maybe ever, with the frontier labs on like building the best coding model, the most powerful model that does all this different stuff. I don't think they're going to beat OpenAI and Anthropic, who are, you know, laser focused on this task, and that's everything they want to do, and they're not managing anything else. I think, to me, it seems clear that they're making the bet that this stuff is going to be important. It's going to be important to the future capabilities of stuff you do with computers and social networking and video and all the rest of the things that Meta does, and engaging with their audience or whatever. And they were like, we refuse to be ever again put in the iPhone Apple tax position. And I think it's actually a great counterexample is Apple right now, who is creating nothing. They've basically completely exited the AI model game, at least the big AI model game. And now they're paying the tax to Google.
Yeah, ish. You know, as in like they're paying $1 billion, but like Google's also paying them however many billions of dollars to be the default search engine. So, but like,
true.
But you're right though. Like their hands are not in their own destiny, with the exception of the fact, as we've discussed before, whatever it was a quarter ago, they announced like their services revenue, and their services revenue is being heavily boosted by AI because they're taking 30% of every OpenAI subscription on the App Store, and obviously like Anthropic, Claude, whatever, if they've downloaded via the App Store.
Yeah, it's not just money though, like in the sense, as you just said, like at the moment, Apple's in a great position. They are like the number one buyer. If Apple knocked on your door as Dario Amodei or anyone, actually, any major lab person and said, we would like to purchase X amount of capacity of your compute or your model to run our own servers or whatever it is, which is what is happening here, they would trip over themselves to make sure you were looked after and had the compute you needed and all the rest of it.
Yes.
Right? You would become priority number one. So for Apple, maybe they can make that work. But like I think Meta, who are still extremely huge and powerful, but like if all of a sudden they decided, which they could have decided yesterday, who gives a fuck, we'll just pay Anthropic and Claude can power all these Meta stuff. The moment there's like a compute crunch or Anthropic decides to launch their own social network or something like that,
of course,
all of a sudden you're up shit creek and you've got nothing. So I think that's Meta's main motivation.
I 100% agree. Zuckerberg is basically his entire life has been, I do not want to get into the stuck in the Apple situation again.
Yeah.
And I should say the other thing that they're talking about in this, which feeds into it, is like this AI is purpose built for like Meta Ray-Ban glasses and AR glasses, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But all of that kind of feeds into we need to be independent here. And as you say, like a model change can't screw up our entire, like shit.
In fact, this was download episode 1, but for people who have just joined us more recently, the Apple situation they're escaping is the fact that like the iPhone was the gatekeeper for fucking everything. Like any updates or ad changes or anything that Meta wanted to do was ultimately gated by what Apple said was allowed on their app store. They were taking the 30% cut of revenue, like all this different stuff were basically...
Yeah, I mean, they wanted to have their own game app store within like the Meta apps, and Apple was just like, no, we don't allow alternative app stores, so you can't sell digital products like within your app, within Facebook on the phone, which is obviously like... That made Zuckerberg very mad. I mean, and I can see why. It's like his argument was, I can't do what I want with my app. Like I have all of these cool products and features I want to build that I'm not allowed to build.
Yep. Which is why the glasses, the VR, he's trying to avoid all that by
the
becoming
metaverse,
the platform arbiter. And I think AI is just part of that as well.
For sure.
He's like,
Well, the other story that came out, this was reported in the FT, that they're building internally a Mark Zuckerberg AI clone for employees to talk to and potentially invite to meetings.
See, this is there was the other story which we talked about the other week, which is that they had like the token maxing internal leaderboard to show how many people who could burn the most AI tokens building stuff. I mean, this just strikes me as another thing where they're just going after everything to do with this thing. So it's like, I'll read from the quote. Meta has been working on developing photorealistic AI-powered 3D characters that users can interact with in real time. This is obviously something they're doing for a wider rollout. The company recently began prioritizing the Zuckerberg AI character. He is personally involved in training and testing his animated AI, which could offer conversation feedback to employees. Is that just not the most cucked thing to get, like, frank and fearless feedback from an AI version of your boss?
I know exactly what I would use it for immediately. As soon as I am in any disagreement with anyone at work, I would manipulate the AI to agree with me and then say, Zuckerberg said it. Zuckerberg said it.
You jailbreak the Zuckerberg AI.
And I would use it as a cudgel. I just use it as a cudgel to get whatever I want and just constantly be sending like screen caps of AI Zuckerberg.
I'm just...
Approved. He approved it.
Let me paint you a picture of a scene that immediately sprang to mind. You being in a one-on-one, I was going to say Zoom, but I don't know what their internal, they probably use some proprietary one, their internal video chat software. And you're not the meeting owner, right? It's someone else's meeting. And you say, well, Zuck actually agrees with me. Zuck agrees with me. Let him in. There's like the approval to let the Zuck AI in.
Exactly.
And you're, let him in, he agrees with me.
Start with a bit of small talk. Been doing any kiteboarding lately, Mr. Zuckerberg?
The guy's like, I'm not letting the Zuck AI into the meeting.
Again.
He's knocking down the door.
We're not doing this again, Raphael.
All right, but yeah, you got to respect, well, I don't know if I respect it actually, but you have to acknowledge that Zuckerberg is very happy to burn a shitload of talent and money and now tokens and whatever on just getting after it and doing something stupid, like Metaverse, obviously, which they've now basically sacked everyone that was involved in it. Well, like they've seriously reduced the team and they seem to be, I mean, and Horizon Worlds is shutting down, right?
Yeah, they're shutting down Horizon Worlds.
Again.
Sabrina Carpenter played in it.
Yeah, and she played in Fortnite too, right? Yeah, she was in Fortnite.
I think it was her, or unless it was one of them. Someone played. Which pop darling played in Horizon Worlds? Lato, Notorious B.I.G. Sky's the Limit concert? What the hell?
They've done necromancy on my boy Notorious B.I.G.
I was in there when I was briefly testing it out. There was like, Sabrina Carpenter. Wow, she's doing all of the metaverse performances. Blackpink, Doja Cat premiered the Scarlet Tour in VR in 2024. J Balvin. I mean, they've all played in there, and the Notorious B.I.G.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, I can't recall ever seeing a screenshot or video of that. I know that. I don't think I've seen a Fortnite one in a while, but they did the Travis Scott
Yeah, I remember
one,
seeing the
and they
Travis
did
Scott one everywhere.
Sabrina Scott, and you were like, oh, that's cool. It's like a proper production. I can't recall seeing the Horizon Worlds one. I'm sort of picturing the Mark Zuckerberg selfie in front of the Eiffel Tower picture, but anyway, but that's gone. But they pumped a lot of money into it, and they seem to be like, all right, well, his mode seems to be, and he says this in podcasts, he does a bit of swagger where he's essentially like, we make so much money from our core product that you piggies are addicted to, from us showing you fucking cool shirts to buy, that we can go after this stuff in the craziest way possible. Thanks to my super voting shares, the shareholders don't get to say shit about it. And if we fail, who gives a fuck? We throw it away and sack everyone and get after the next crazy thing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think, I guess what they're doing with the Zuckerberg CEO. They're like, actually, I don't know. I don't know if I get what they're doing. Like, I don't know how that's any benefit. Like, they can see maybe a world where this is again like productized or whatever, having like 3D companions, because they did like the Snoop Dogg ones and stuff previously, right? Remember, like they got Snoop Dogg on board that you could chat to Snoop Dogg in Facebook Messenger, which would have been a really cool thing to do.
Yeah.
So like they do obviously see something here as like this virtual companion thing. Maybe it's like in that, but I just can't see. Shout outs to you if you're a CEO who's like, you know what, fuck it, just like encode me and like, oh, that's just as good. But like, what is it? It's like, is it to make you think? I guess that's how they'd frame it. It's like, bring him in here, AI Zuckerberg, and maybe he'll make us think about something.
I think the main thing is totally that they see there's some future vector in people talking with realistic fictional characters, and that's what your social network is, which is very depressing. But it's very clear that they think there's some juice in that because you can talk to those weird meta AI chatbots.
Oh yeah, that's right. Remember, like
Granny Cougar.
Granny
Cougar was one of them. That was very popular. I don't wish to dwell on that any longer, but they clearly think that's part of it. And I mean, obviously, I don't think anyone is going to be that keen to take project feedback on a weird 3D version of their boss. But potentially, there's a bunch of people.
There's got to be a lot of Meta employees listening to this, and I know a few. Leak us. Just hit us up on the side. We want to know just how your conversation, just a little bit of a screen cap, just film it on your phone. Don't like actually use like inbuilt screen capture technology.
No. Have you had an encounter with AI Zuckerberg? Has he provided you with frank and forthright, constructive feedback? Or the alternate, has he chewed you out? Has he absolutely destroyed you with no constructive element to the feedback at all and done serious damage to your mental health? I want to hear about that too. Actually, there's another thing in this FT story I want to bring up just because like it's only a sidebar here, but I've seen it a lot brought up in other stories about how like this is obviously Zuck's next personal rebrand after going Jack Harlow, pimped out, Roman Empire, bit of facial hair, bit of scruff, bit of streetwear. Obviously that's in the past. His new one seems to be like locked in Zuck. Like where he's personally
because apparently
doing
he's
work.
coding now. He's coding.
Well, that's the thing. This is the paragraph. Zuckerberg has become increasingly hands-on as he oversees Meta's AI push. According to people familiar with the matter, he has spent 5 to 10 hours a week coding on different AI projects at the company and sitting in on technical reviews. I love like 5 hours. Like, it's obviously delicately balanced, this leak. It's like we don't want to suggest that he's like wasting time putting out code, but we don't want to suggest that like he's just spending 30 minutes dicking around in the IDE. We want to suggest that like he's had some solid heads down time in between his CEO stuff.
Yeah. He's
5 to 10 hours. Beautiful.
Yeah. He's just locking in for a few hours here and there, churning out some code. I mean, what would you do if you come into, if you're like, another dev there and he's working, Zuckerberg's actually working on what you're doing and you see it and you're like, shit, it doesn't work. But Zuck wrote it. Do you just write a whole bunch of code around it to try and like just make it somehow integrated and work? Maybe you bring up the AI bot and ask for advice. That's what the first thing I would do.
You bring up the Zuck AI and be like, look, sorry, the real version of you just sent me a push request to our main code base, and it's kind of dog shit. It kind of sucks shit, actually. The comments are fucking whack. They don't make any sense. It's just it's a spaghetti. and then he would, I don't know, suck you off or something. Whatever the robot is supposed to do.
Totally. I mean, you can see. Sorry, obviously I'm stuck on this robot, but you can see that the next thing would be like then calling HR and then getting like a robot HR, and you're like, robot CEO told me to suck him off, and robot HR just like,
It's like, that's fun. I wouldn't worry about it. Fuck, that'd be bad. If I ever got sacked by a robot.
I mean, effectively, so much HR sacking is just like read a script and then say if you have,
Yeah, check
right?
your email to see if you have to leave the office immediately and hand in your laptop. Maybe it would be nicer to have like a robot HR lady to be a shoulder to cry on and talk in weird AI voice.
Yeah.
And it could be like, this isn't a sacking. This is a resurrection.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Anyway, last thing to say is that this is Angular on Meta, but Bloomberg had some reporting on Apple's challenger to the smart glasses, right? So this is a story from Mark Gurman this week. Headline, Apple AI glasses will rival Meta's with several styles and oval cameras.
Oval cameras.
Oval cameras. So it seems like they're going to be display-free smart glasses, which seems to me just like a massive surrender to the fact that the Vision Pro is just not it. So not even like, they're not even going after the AR projecting stuff. It's visual free.
Mm. How good's that? You can have Siri even closer.
Yeah, exactly. Siri, which hasn't been, to be clear, has not been proven to be useful at all yet. I guess that's soon, be in the next few months that they roll that out, which is powered by Google's Gemini.
I don't know. Last I heard it was pushed back again, but we'll see. You'd hope. WWDC maybe.
This is kind of interesting though. So, as I said, direct competitor to the Meta Ray-Bans, which the story suggests that Apple was like, oh, okay, there's actually demand for this product, so we can probably build it. Internally codenamed the N50, the idea is to unveil the product at the end of 2026 or early the following year, with the actual release coming later in 2027. That's like quite a far away, right? For what is essentially some glasses with a camera.
Some dumb glasses.
Yeah, totally. Capturing photos and videos, syncing with a smartphone for editing and sharing, handling phone calls, listening to notifications, playing music, hands-free interaction with a voice assistant with the new Siri thing.
So the only thing that it does differently to AirPods is it has cameras.
Pretty much. And it was like, this is part of a broader three-pronged AI wearable strategy that includes the new AirPods and a camera-equipped pendant.
It's actually insane if that comes out. I still can't believe that they would do that.
I gotta tell this story actually, which is funny, which is that a mate of mine said that he was dealing with, I believe it was a oafish brother-in-law situation. And he prefaced this story by saying, my brother-in-law is, I'm shocked that he didn't lose all his money in crypto just because he has the vibe of a guy that would happen to. And he was having a conversation and the topic of AI came up. And this guy was like, oh, AI? Yeah, interesting. And then like pulled his shirt open like Superman and was like, this is AI. And he had one of those pendants. Mm. Or so, I don't know, not clear what brand it was. And he was like, yeah, this records all my conversations and summarizes them for me in a nice interface for me to see what I've been talking about all day.
Right.
I was like, I got something for that, mate. It's called my brain.
I do not consent.
I don't consent. I don't condone. That behavior is totally inappropriate. And now Apple wants to do it. Again, pendant. I'm not wearing a fucking pendant. Famous last words, but I'm not wearing a fucking pendant. It's not happening.
Yeah, but just because of the like humane AI pin, how that was obviously a bunch of former Apple employees who like went off to make the renegade humane AI pin that sold to, who did it sell to again? Like Cisco or someone? Hewlett Packard? Was it Hewlett Packard?
Oh, yeah,
anyway,
totally.
Failed product in the form of a pendant. If Apple then make the same, I mean, it would be a flex if they do it and it works, I guess, to their former employees who they were pissed off at. But yeah, I guess, look, even though I can't really understand exactly why you'd want Meta Ray-Bans, but 3 years later made by Apple with Siri, which is, unless Siri's way better, etc., I can see why, like, they have to ship, I guess, in the same way that Meta had to ship, their new LLM. It's like, get it out there, learn from it. The Apple do have that ecosystem play in the future, right? So it does make sense that they would ship a product like this.
It does, yeah. And it seems like, according to the story, that the strategy is they reckon that they can more tightly integrate the glasses with the iPhone and also offer like a higher end build because they're not partnering with a SL Exotica or like an external or Warby Parker in the case of Google. They're going it alone as they normally do.
Oh yeah, and as well as the fact of the matter is, yes, your photos that you take end up in the Photos app, not in like the Meta app.
Yeah, totally.
Like everything, again, another reason, like everything is mediated by the phone with Meta. They don't have that, one-to-one connection or whatever.
Yeah, it's Google and Samsung that are partnering with Warby Parker, I believe, for stuff. But anyway, just to end, here are the designs in testing. A large rectangular frame, reminiscent of Ray-Ban Wayfarers. A slimmer rectangular design, similar to the glasses worn by Tim Cook. You reckon he's leaning in being like...
We got to have some like this. Everyone loves these glasses. This is the best shape of glass.
These are pretty schmick, don't you reckon? No, like try them. A larger oval or circular frame.
They look good on everyone.
Steve Jobs style, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And then a more refined oval or circular option.
What about some big dogs?
Well, like a huge, like some pit vipers or whatever. Some speed dealer type.
Well, Meta's got them. They've got the Oakleys.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. The Oakleys, yeah. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, you're right. I think the whole thing would just be ecosystem play, bus Apple being like, we're still pimp enough to be able to like do a mass market fashion product that's tightly integrated and everyone wants to wear it.
Yeah.
Which I think, they probably still do have a bit of juice in that space.
Yeah.
Even though they haven't had to. I mean, look at everyone loves the orange.
Oh yeah, everyone does love the orange phone. And also like the big headphones. They're like surprisingly popular, I would say. And like I know that there's heaps of fakes of them and whatnot, like, but that is now a style. The AirPods Max? What is that what they're called? AirPods Max.
Yep.
I see them everywhere, and you know what I mean? Like, that was like, it's a flex. It's like, here are some $900 headphones great headphones, but like, there's a lot of great headphones for that price. But because it's Apple and they kind of look stylish.
Yep.
I mean, I guess, obviously, there's a conspicuous consumption angle there as well. It's like, I am wearing $900 headphones, and everyone knows the $900 Apple headphones. So that obviously helps. But yeah, so they still got the juice in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I fully agree. Anyway, on the other side of the paywall, we'll be talking about, has Anthropic lost the juice?
Mm-hmm.
I know we don't want to swing back and forth too dramatically on the
juice,
on the tides of public opinion, but it does seem like they're running into some issues after having a historic run on public vibes, and it all comes down to a little thing we've talked about on Down Round, and it's called chips. It's called compute, baby. Down to the metal, silicon.
Let's go.
That's what it's all about. Let's go. See you on the other side. And if you're not a subscriber to Down Round, what are you doing? Seriously, what the hell are you doing? Downround.net. Sign up. I think it's $9.50 Australian a month. What a deal. Extra episode every single week in your podcatcher of choice. But for those select few that are part of the club, we'll see you in 5 seconds.